How are you? It's a long night for you.
I think you woke him up.
Well, welcome everybody, and tonight we have a couple public meetings. The first public meeting is to deal with input on the possible of chickens in the backyards. I think that's how we'll say it. It's actually a proposal to amend the exotic pet bylaw, but it's sort of just about the chickens, I think, at this point in time.
All that.
Well, do you want me to go through the call to order? You didn't tell me that. All right, I could do. You're new. Yeah.
Just new.
Call to order. Disclosure any peculiar interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Nothing? Minutes of previous meeting. Moved by Councillor Elliott, second by Councillor Caldwell. That the minutes of September 1st, 2015 council meeting be approved. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're into resolutions moving council and committee of
Additional
whole.
items.
Oh, additional items and other business. Did you want any? No, of course Ron was on. I have one too. So. Anybody else? Ron? Okay, anybody knows, just tell me later.
Hi, how are you?
Resolution to move council into the committee of the whole to consider public meetings delegations. Moved by Councillor Dirksen, second by Councillor Turton. The town of Minto Council convenes in the committee of the whole. All in favor? Carried. Okay, now we're there. Okay. So I will call the public meeting to order. I request members of the public present to please sign the attendance record. I believe everybody did that on their way in. I want the speakers, if they would come up to the mics, because as you say, we're on television, kind of. So come up to the mics and speak into the mics when you come up to speak. Now, I think I've got approximately 5 people so far that want to speak, so even though we started a little late, we're going to be still 30 minutes. So we try to keep everything down to 5 minutes or less if you're speaking, and if I might have to cut you off if you're saying the same thing over and over again. So you try to, if you heard a speaker before you, if you have something new to add to that, and then go forward on that basis. A group of 5 more people should have 2 spokesmen or less, so just kind of work that out. Please try to avoid repeating topics, as I just said. I'll turn it over to CAO Clerk White to state the following.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. Chickens are considered agricultural animals in the town bylaw and are allowed only in areas zoned for farms. In reply to letters asking for a bylaw change to allow keeping chickens in residential backyards, Council asked for public input. Rules listed for discussion in the staff report are as follows. No more than 5 hens on a residential property as an accessory use where eggs produced are primarily for use by occupants of the residence. Pens are regularly cleaned and disinfected and maintained with enough water and feed. On-site manure storage is not allowed except in odor-free containers. And part of any pen must be 33 feet or 10 meters minimum from any part of a church or residence building, including the on-site residence, 10 feet or 3 meters from any interior side or rear lot line, and not in a front or an exterior side yard, and the facilities would be licensed by the town. Notice was given in the Wellington Advertiser, Minto Express, town website, and if possible, emailed to persons who contacted the CAO clerk, and comments received are on council agenda. That includes material that was received as recent as 3 or 4 o'clock today. So quite a number of letters came in. I wanted to assure anyone who was here that council did get those letters unless they come in later today, in which case they are copied for council. Thank you, Mayor Bridge.
Thank you. Okay, I'll call members of the public wishing to speak. So who would like to start? Okay, and just yourself? Okay.
My name is Julia Lackey. My address is 6895 Side Road 7 West in Mount Forest. I just have to input that up until May of this year, I was living in Guelph, where chickens are allowed in backyards.
Yep.
All our lots are 30 by 112, and the person directly behind me had 3 chickens. I didn't have a problem with it. They didn't smell. If they're taken care of properly, I don't see the harm in it. If people are complaining, then they're just complainers, as long as they're being taken care of properly. Roosters, I'd probably have a problem with. The guy 2 doors down with the dog was more of an issue. So all I have to say is if they don't amend this, I can't see why not. People keep them in downtown Guelph.
Thanks, Judy.
Thanks.
Next. Oh,
My name is Bill Vansicle.
just sit down, Bill, because we have to be at the mic.
Yep, okay.
So that all your public can hear you.
So we have 1.5 acres. Behind us is spear seeds. Another direction is somebody's lawn, and another direction is a field. I'd like to have some chickens. I don't see how it would be any more of a problem than somebody's dog or cat could be. And as I say, you have to have some idea of what you're doing and do it properly, and it shouldn't be an annoying to anybody. So I'd certainly be in favor. I mean, this is a historical perspective, but I don't know how many of you know what Campbellville is like. Going back 90 years ago, my father used to deliver milk. They lived downtown Campbellville. They had a little bit of pasture in a shed. I mean, I know times have changed. I don't think anyone would want to have a cow next door, but some chickens, I don't see how that could be much of a problem to anyone.
Okay, I'm Connie Murray, and the chickens in question are mine. Some information that I was given from a gentleman who runs the Canadian Flocks of Chickens of Canada. In 2010, the Belgian government gave 25,000 families 3 hens each. And in that first year, it reduced the combustible biomass to the landfill by 100 tons. Chickens are great at recycling, and as stated, if they are taken care of properly, they don't smell like a big chicken farm would. They don't attract rodents or pests. If the rodents, it's because they're already in the town, garbage. They're very quiet. You can ask any of my neighbors, they would, except for the one that complained. They're quiet. It's not like dogs that bark all the time. Chickens don't transmit disease in your backyard like they would from the big factory farms. There is quite a few cities in Canada, including Guelph, Brampton, Niagara Falls, Kingston, Quinte West, and Vancouver that have allowed backyard chickens. Meaford just recently changed their bylaw to allow backyard chickens as well. Owen Sound and Pembroke are also in process of deciding whether they will. The only thing that I can say is having chickens in my backyard has been a huge benefit to me health-wise to get me out of the house. And it's really good to know that we can have fresh food, come outside and have fresh eggs every day. So that's all.
Connie, just while you're there, because I know you've been involved in this, I'd like to ask you, you heard what bylaw that we're talking about, going to 5 chickens. Is that something that you could live with?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, I think that's perfect. And the only other concern that I had was the limit from like where your chickens could be to the lot line. I wasn't sure, because where ours is, it's, how far is it?
Well, it's different too. If it's open field, like open lawn to lawn, it's different. We have fence, it's contained all the way around.
Yeah.
We're in a lane off the barn, so it's kind of contained that way.
Yeah.
It's not that they're free grazing, they are all closed in.
Yeah, and I just want to let the council know you can ask questions to anybody.
Yeah,
so.
thank you. Thank you, Mayor Bridge. So yours is, you said you have a concern about the distance? Like
Yeah.
50 feet, I believe it is, from a church, school, or other lot line, right?
No,
Right.
33 feet,
33 feet, sorry,
10 meters.
10 meters. That's correct, 10 meters.
Yeah, just because where our pen is, would be, what,
Well, when you're
maybe,
looking at 33 feet from a property line, most properties are 160 feet. So time you got a house in there and you got your frontage, no way for any place it's gonna work now unless, like one guy said he had an acre and a half, then he could be away from the property line.
Yeah.
Or the chicken coop or whatever
Yeah.
it's what it called would have to be almost dead center of the lot, correct?
Right.
But then you're gonna be amongst your own house there, which you're not gonna be aware against either, because you're not gonna have a little shack that, to make room for the chicken. The houses are already there, so to get it in between, that's the borderline. I can see if they were free range, then it's a different story, but when they're in a contained area, it's like in a barn, they're not getting away anywhere, it's all closed in.
So I get, if I might, Mayor Bridge, to continue with that, then the fencing, I don't know whether that's part of the bylaw or not, but.
Right now, it's just recommendations.
Yeah,
We're
exactly.
just formulating it right
So-
now after this feedback session. That's why we're,
So your lot is fenced, so the chicken
Yes.
can't go on somebody else's property?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
okay, thank you. Next.
Hi, I'm Tammy Mitchell. I am the property manager at the old schoolhouse in Clifford. I have come here on behalf of the owner of the building as well as myself to speak today. Connie has had chickens. We in Clifford see no effect on our property whatsoever, even though she's a distance from us. My owner of our building is a vet. He also raises birds. He lives in town in Cambridge. He says he has no complaints from his property neighbors or vice versa. I've been there to Connie's as well as the owners. I have not had any smell, any issues with it. I brought other tenants from my building today to prove they've been there too and had no issues with what's going on at her property.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak?
Denise Vidals, and I live in Hairston. And I'm not saying that I'm against having chickens in a backyard. I'm concerned about chickens in my backyard. If you say 33 feet, then basically no one in any of these lots that are 66 feet can have chickens because of the way it's set up. If chickens are allowed in backyards, if I sit on my back deck and eating my dinner, am I going to be able to see the chickens, my neighbor's chickens, and their chicken manure in their pens? Am I going to see that? On a windy day, am I going to have chicken feces blowing over on my yard? I know that in the past, where I live, I can hear coyotes. If I'm in the backyard and late at night and there's chickens in my neighbor and the coyote's coming to get the chickens, is that going to, affect me? So, chicken feces is something too that is known for salmonella. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I'm from Clifford. My name's Sandy Lynn Lattiser.
Sorry, Sandy, you want to just say it into the mic too, Sandy?
Sandy Lynn Lattiser from Clifford. I just wanted to suggest that everyone has a preference on pets they like. Some people like cats, some people like dogs, fish, snakes, whatever. I don't see what a problem with a couple little hens are going to make a big difference to anyone even looking out their window, seeing them. I mean, I've been digging in my garden and found cat feces in that. There's cats running loose all over and in our town, as well as dogs. So I think that this whole thing is boiled down to someone is just being a little spiteful on someone having a couple birds, and it's not really fair to everybody else. Because pets are wonderful things, and some people just are not animal people. And unfortunately, that just, makes it bad for others. So
Thank you.
I have a lot more to say, but 5 minutes isn't very
Yeah,
long.
that's all right. No, I think you made your point. Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Can I just add one quick thing?
Oh, and then Vince. Okay, yeah.
Again, it's Julia Lackey from Mount Forest. Just a quick thing about feces and seeing things. I have 3 dogs at my house. All are over 100 pounds. I guarantee you they create a heck of a lot more feces than any chickens ever would. I can see my neighbor, and he also has 3 dogs. The people we bought the house from we're allowed to have chickens. I'm allowed. And they left a big thing. Even though they had quite a few chickens because they were Mennonites, it doesn't even smell. Even the pan that they had for 6 years had chickens in it, multiple chickens, roosters, doesn't smell. I think someone saying, worrying about seeing chickens, well, coyotes, yes, middle of Guelph. There's a lot of coyotes in the middle of Guelph. You hear them all the time. I don't think it really matters.
Through you, Mayor Bridge, how long have you lived in Mount Forest?
I've been here since May 23rd.
Oh, okay. So how long has the town of Wellington North had that bylaw? Do you know?
No, she's in a rural area, though.
She's rural.
Oh, you're a rural area.
I'm a rural area. I'm allowed to have them because I have also 3 acres.
Yeah, okay,
So she's
okay,
It's just,
okay.
I put my input in being someone who lived in Guelph where chickens are allowed and they're not a problem.
Yeah. Thank you. Vince?
Vince Tachuk, Harrison. I figured I might as well say a couple things. I guess in this room, the quickest thing to do is to say who is actually opposed to this in this kind of microcosm of population sampling. Is anyone actually opposed to keeping chickens?
Well, I think we had one person was a little concerned about it. Other than that, we haven't anybody else stand up.
Okay.
I must say that I've had phone calls at home and people approach me on the street that have spoke against it. I have not recorded that.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure that's a valid question, Vince, because I think that comes down to the evidence and factual things that are presented to the council, and they have to make that decision.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
But if someone is vehemently opposed to chickens, they would be more than likely to send something in or at least show up, right?
Okay. We do have some correspondence for opposition.
Are those listed? I didn't see
One or
them
two.
anywhere in the agenda. I saw one which was a sentence,
That was it.
which was an interesting argument, but
As I recall from the letters and emails that came in, I believe that was the only one in opposition.
Earlier one.
Maybe there was one other.
I think there was one earlier. Yeah.
So-
Anyways, but needless to say,
one of the main things I'm looking at is the bylaw for Guelph is fairly broad. It's been intact since 1985. It doesn't kind of wade in minutia in terms of setbacks and number of chickens and licenses. And how many complaints do you know of that Guelph gets per year, or how many have they gotten over 30 years?
I don't know that.
Because I contacted the municipality and they said only a handful. They couldn't even really quantify it. Because I look at some of these numbers and they make sense in some ways, but in a lot of ways they don't make sense. Like no more than 5 hens on a residential property. Well, where's that number coming from?
Mayor Bridge, that came from our report. That number was just a number picked out of the blue for discussion purposes.
Okay. And the setbacks were,
The setback was calculated based on an theoretical MDS separation for 5 hens, so it was just a ballpark figure about how far a distance 5 hens might need to be away from a building.
I guess what I'm really getting down to is I've looked at the exotic bylaw as well for Minto, and it gets marred down in lawyer talk, and it uses $10 words, and it just invites trouble. Like, as an example, not specifically to the chickens, but bylaw 0280, which lists all the exotic animals that you cannot keep. You list all the animals, which obviously takes time to research marsupials and pinnipeds and edentites. But when you do something like that, you invite trouble because someone like me says, well, you didn't list whales and sharks. Can I keep a whale or a shark? You know what I mean? It just says simple, direct language in the bylaw is, as far as I'm concerned, very, very effective.
Are you talking, are you looking at it, Vince, in the sense that, I think what this bylaw would be to take chickens out of the exotic bylaw. I don't think we're going to be attacking looking at the exotic
No.
bylaw at this point.
I guess
it would
I'm
be
making-
chickens got put in there, and that's why they're technically aren't allowed. So I think what the council wants to try to do is through staff and through this process, is to find out a way that one way or the other, chickens could become out of that. I don't think we want to reopen that whole exotic pet bylaw, unless
No.
I'm mistaken.
I'm just using it as
That's
an
correct.
example
Yeah.
for micromanaging things leads to invitation.
And I understand your thought on that, but I just to get back to the chickens. I'd like
No,
more
no,
your
I'm
opinion
saying-
on the chickens
And
itself.
let me bring it full circle. The bylaw for Guelph, which has been, as far as I'm concerned, and talking with the municipality of Guelph and the corporation, it's been there since 1985. It's one page, very little lawyer jargon,
Yep.
not many $10 words, and there's no real point to reinventing the wheel if it's working in a place with 10, 15, 20 times the population. Basically copy this and do any minor tweaks that would be associated to this area, but other than that, yeah,
Good, yeah.
keep it as simple and direct as possible.
Thanks for your feedback on that. And I say the bylaw hasn't been written yet. These are just
Yeah.
recommendations.
And I just wanted to throw
Yep.
that out just to.
Super, yep.
Just so I wouldn't have to come back and throw it out again.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Chad?
My name's Chad Martin. I'm actually a resident of Brantford, and in fact, I actually have my own chickens within the city limits of Brantford. My neighbor and I both acquired chickens back in the spring of this year. Personally, I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's a very educational and, well, to be honest, I have 2 young girls. My neighbor has 3 young sons, and they have been learning more in the last 4 months about caring for animals that aren't dogs or cats or hamsters or anything like that. They're learning beyond into new areas that they would have never been able to acquire. In the city of Brantford, the way the laws work, it's also under the county, so you have to be a member of the Brant Poultry Association. It's an annual membership of $10. They have monthly meetings, which is absolutely fantastic because for beginners, you're meeting with people that have a lot of experience. They also end up buying and selling from each other. They have special events. They're involved with all the fall fairs. So it's a wonderful program that they've got established. On top of that, if you're not a member of the Poultry Association, basically the rule is you have to prove that you're going to show your birds. So the idea is you're raising them, that you will present them at a fall fair or at some form of formal presentation. The other possibility is if you're a member of the 4-H club. My daughter's a member of 4-H as well, and so for us, we're allowed either way to house and maintain chickens. Anyone that is very serious about doing this, like it's no different than raising a child. You research it, you look into it, you study it. The laws in Brantford are they have to be a minimum 25 feet away from your neighbor's house. Fortunately, I'm in an area where I'm further away from my neighbors or where I'm keeping my birds, but my neighbor, all the backyards touch. And so she had to be very diligent, and we actually built a coop very specifically located. There's no noise. The neighbors have never even noticed a smell. We actually experimented to see how long it would take them before they realized we had birds. It took them 3 months, and we actually told them we had chickens because we offered them eggs. And that was when they learned. So anyone complaining about potential smell or hazards, it's really not there. We also notified the SPCA that we had birds, and they do their due diligence. If there's a concern, they know they can come to our home and they can look to see how we're raising the animals and how we're caring for them. So as long as someone's doing their due diligence, there's no problems, but as long as, you know, they're upfront and forward with their neighbors and with the community, there really should not be any issues. And it's a fantastic learning experience. And hearing the number 5 birds or 5 hens, the standards usually are 4 chickens lay roughly a dozen eggs a week. So for your average family household, a dozen eggs is what they usually go through in a week. So between 4 and 5, it would be your average size of bird flock. So.
Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, Chad.
Okay, so if nobody else wants to speak, as a member of the press or a different role there, you come on down.
And I just want to point out that, you know, I can see this working on, you know, large enough lots and proper setbacks and stuff. But I want to point out to you, there's been some talk about how there's, you know, everybody here's in favor and there's no opposition. But you've advertised and promoted this as going to have the 10-meter setback, so everybody's sitting there saying, well, no chance my neighbor can do it, because there are almost no lots in Harrison anyway that you could do this on with those setbacks. So if you then later decide you're going to change the setback and make this a lot easier to do, you might want to have another public meeting.
Okay, thanks, Drew.
Good point.
Just to be clear, it's 10 meters from a building.
From a building, yeah.
Right? It's not a lot line. That's what we advertised on, so we felt like there were even if on a smaller lot, you could, at the back of the property, you'd normally find a spot to do it, so, but I think the point's well taken.
Okay, anything else? Okay. Well, thank you for your feedback, and this is going to help our staff look at where they want to go for this. Council will consider the feedback, and a follow-up report from staff will be presented at the next meeting, making a decision. Written or email comments with new information set out by the CAO clerk before September 23rd will be given to council with the staff report. Council may proceed with the exceptions or changes to the bylaw without further notice. Okay. I think that's it. Oh, sorry. Did you questions from the councilor? I thought you could ask all along.
Oh, okay, no, my question, I guess, is more directed to council, is what would be the procedure if a neighbor did have a complaint? What would happen? I guess my biggest concern is disposing of chickens that have passed away. And if someone, the people in the room seem to be very diligent and they would take care of the chickens and the smell and whatever, but there might be some people that wouldn't. So I guess my question is, if someone a neighbor did have an issue, where would that go and what would happen to it?
So,
if I may, through you, Mayor Bridge, we haven't written rules yet.
Okay.
So we'll outline that in the report that we would bring back to you. If council votes in favor of changing the bylaw and allowing it, then any complaints like that would come to our bylaw officer and they would investigate them. One of the options in the report was having a licensing, similar to what Mr. Martin said, in which case if you issued a license at the beginning of the year to everyone, then they could do an inspection, and if there were problems during the year, they could sort of intervene.
And revoke your license?
And revoke the license and not give one and so forth. But we would have to put that in place if that's council's wish. So.
Can I just ask one last quick question?
okay, Vince, one last quick question. Pertaining to what we just talked about the rules?
Just so that all bases are covered, just to play devil's advocate, what if someone was to just keep chickens? What is the recourse for that? What's the penalty?
Well, right now they'd be, go ahead, Bill, you want to?
If I may, if we don't change the bylaw and they do it, then a charge could be laid under that bylaw that you're reading.
A charge of?
Under that bylaw, there should be, if you read it through,
Penalty section.
a penalty section in there. So we can enforce it through that, if that's council's wish.
So someone will come and confiscate the chickens?
That could be part of it.
Could be part of it?
Could be a
Yes,
fine.
depends on how we choose to enforce it.
Yeah.
And if you ended up having to go to court, you could get an order to remove the chickens, in which case we would come in and take them if that's what the judge ordered.
Most cases with bylaw infractions, we try to work with the individual to eliminate the problem. So either, they come up and come within the bylaw. I'm just saying dogs, for instance, you're allowed 2. So if you have 3, we give them time. There's options, right? We don't go out and charge everybody right away. We're pretty diligent on not wanting to go to court on everything. But in worst case scenario, if we had to, if somebody just ignored us totally, we'd have to take action.
So then it becomes a legal
Exactly.
matter. Okay.
That's why we want to talk about it and get it organized and figure it out tonight, or not tonight, but get the input tonight and then come back with a report.
Okay.
We don't want people to be sitting out there basically violating something that,
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
okay? No, I think I'll just have to cut you off. We're at past the 7.
I just, if you're gonna do bylaw, I'd really like to see included proper taking care of.
Well, no, it is in the bylaw. It would be in there that we wouldn't want somebody to abuse it's just like any pet, you wouldn't want abuse, right? Yeah, for sure, yep. Okay, well, thanks, everybody, for the public meeting on the chickens, and thanks for coming out. Anybody who wishes to stay can, but we have a couple more. This is a really exciting one, strategic plan 2-year review. Bill's happy to see a big crowd.
Is that why everyone's here?
I think so. Might be losing half the crowd, Bill. Where's Dave going?
No, but that is so true.
Yep. Well, I think
Just because somebody reported it.
I think you want to have good rules. I think
No, Pat, what he said is right.
here. It's not going to be.
We've had so many public meetings.
Thank you. Did a good job.
I'd like to know how many people in the city of Guelph actually.
Oh, there's quite a few.
But then,
I should read somewhere. I can get that stat for you.
That'd be great.
Through Taste Real, because
I like it. Yeah.
I think it's like 400. I mean, it's a big city, right? It's a big city,
100,000 people.
But, you got Italians there, you got all kinds.
So has somebody complained?
and,
Like, this is a very
Terry's here.
somebody
Oh, okay. Now, we're doing, should we do your delegation first?
yeah,
But what do you want to do?
Public meetings.
Oh, yeah, so yeah, we got public meetings first. Yeah, strategic plan will be done. Okay, no, that's right, but we have to do these.
yeah.
Yeah.
And my 10 feet is.
Okay, what's the next one here, Bill? Here it is, right here.
Well, Barry made it back. How's the drive?
See, I'm missing my
I'll bet you
scribe
did.
thing, right?
I only came from Aurelia and
And I'm just turning this over to you, right?
That's what we're all.
oh, you're darn right.
You have an agenda.
So I have an agenda.
6.5?
Yeah, well, we just.
6.5?
It's great, still that many
Okay.
people here.
I guess I do it twice today. Each public meeting.
yapping.
We're whipping on public meetings, and
Hey, Wayner.
I got to try to keep control of this group, Wayne. It's tough. Okay. The next public meeting, I will chair it and request members of the public present to please sign in if attendance record as stated. Speakers must first state your full name and address, as there may be many people wanting to speak to council out of courtesy. Please keep comments to 5 minutes or less, and a group of 5 or more people should have 2 spokesmen or less. Please try to avoid repeating topics already covered by earlier speakers. I'll turn it over to CEO White to briefly review the presentation provided in the agenda and state.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. I'm pretty sure that most of the people here are not here for the strategic plan.
Don't know about that.
Oh, come on.
Please bear with us if we we'll have a brief presentation, Mayor Bridge. We did give notice in the Wellington Advertiser, Minto Express, and on our town website. And so I'll give the presentation, and if there is anyone who has anything to say, we'd certainly love to hear from you.
Isn't this a wonderful way to get people out for a strategic
Exactly.
plan?
have you here now.
We should have done it before the chickens, and we would have really agreed.
Might be a wonderful way of not having them come back.
Go ahead. No, this is very important stuff.
Yes, it is.
So Mayor Bridges, you know, I kind of like to have quotes for everybody to think about when we get into issues like this. So the first one is building a visionary company requires 1% vision and 99% alignment. So I think what we're doing is we have a mission and vision, and we're aligning ourselves to see that we're on track here tonight. The second one is from an ancient Chinese military strategist. It says, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. Tactics without strategy is a noise before defeat. So I think it's important to have a combination of both. You're very familiar with this chart before, where a strategic plan sits. It's our mission, vision, and actions. Then the county official plan, which was updated in 2011, sits at that location. It implements provincial policy, and all your decisions must be consistent with provincial policy and with the county official plan. And out of there falls our more detailed planning documents like the sustainable community plan, the culture plan, fire master plan, etc. And then we include reference to those in our annual budget in our departmental business plans. And that's where we have quite detailed performance measures that try and keep us again on track so that we're not doing anything that's kind of misdirected from our strategic plan. Thought I'd use a little bit of an analogy. For those of you who are space nuts would know about the first Apollo mission. And this is the number of mid-course corrections that they had on their trip. This is after launch. They had to make 2 corrections on heading to the moon. And in fact, the third one, they had to land not where they hoped to land, and they landed, in fact, with very little fuel left. So you could say that, well, they knew where they were heading. A lot of the times they were off course. This is a fairly common business analysis used. In fact, they made 4 course corrections in order to make it back to where they had to be. And if you think about our strategic plan, we started in 2006. We had a course correction in 2009 and another one in 2012. If we consider this to be a bit of a course correction, then in fact, maybe in a few years, 5 or so, we're looking at a whole new mission. But that'll be for a future council to think about, I would expect. Our strategic plan right now is 98 actions and 9 core business areas. And under that plan, it says we have to have a public meeting every 2 years, so that's kind of why we're here. I always found that last point in the history down there, the computers on the mission to the moon have the same capacity as a cell phone, so that's quite interesting how far we've come. There's the vision in our strategic plan. We won't go over that in great detail. And our mission, the difference between a vision and a mission, those of you who've heard this presentation before or one like it, we know that the vision is the beacon in the distance, and we navigate by our mission, and that's how we accomplish our goals. These guiding principles are our overriding things, so we have our actions broken down into 9 areas. These are kind of overriding things that we look at. And then that's a breakdown of our core business areas and the 98 actions within them. So there's 12 in economic development, 8 in financial, 12 in tourism and culture, and so forth. And then of the 98, 40 are short-term actions, 21 are medium-term, 3 are long-term, and 34 are ongoing. So it's a 5 to 10 year plan. We report annually to you at budget, consult every 2 years, and the brand positioning in that plan is where your family belongs, and I think we're still carrying on in that vein. Just a few of the things in the strategic plan that have been accomplished. We dealt a lot in this term and last term with servicing land, and so the Harrison Senior School, the former ball field and rail corridor in Clifford, the Class EA to increase the industrial lands in Harrison, it's ongoing, the Palmerston Industrial Mall, plus launch it. That was another action in the plan, and there it is. And of course, we've improved our wayfinding signage as well. In the further under economic development, we've talked about the expanded community improvement plan. Last week, Belinda and I finished what I would think is the final renovation. revisions to that plan, and that plan will be coming for adoption, if not this meeting, the next meeting, the following meeting after that. We have new incentives in that plan. We've spent a lot of time on urban design here trying to improve what we require. We've gone into joint parking arrangements with Harry Stones and others. And as mentioned, we're maintaining our brand positioning where your family belongs. Some actions that we might be looking at in the upcoming time frame is more on business retention and expansion, labor force work, and some community signage work. Financial strategy, those pictures are all of partnerships. So the partnership with the Kinsmen and others in Tannery Park, the partnership with the Lions Club in Palmerston for the Lions Park in Palmerston, and different Field of Dreams, I guess, in Clifford, where you were with the Clifford Recreation Association and the Rotary Club and others. So in terms of financial strategy, we've accomplished a lot through partnership, through grants, which Gordon and Belinda and Matt and others are expert at writing and we're very successful with. And of course, a number of other financial planning documents that we were required to do were active in the plan, and those are done as well. And we think we've been pretty good at balancing borrowing and reserves, and having healthy finances. But again, we'll talk more about that when budget comes around, and that first meeting is November 24th, so for 2016. Emergency service and health, some more accomplishments in those areas. Fortunate or not fortunate, we've had real live exercises with 2 ice storms, a near flood, and a tornado, so somewhat biblical in nature. But anyway, we've had some other things going on with the family health team getting moving. Our fire chief has taken a leadership role provincially on fire protection and the volunteer model, and we promoted that in our strategic plan. We have a number of other partnerships, and later on you'll hear a report on the social media aspects of emergency planning, which have been very good. Again, recreation facilities, some more accomplishments under the plan. We were bronze medalists in the walkability designation. We've expanded our provincial and national recognition programs. We've adopted the county accessibility program, and this year the Lions were able to get a grant under that program now that we did that. So a lot of accomplishments in programming and facilities. Tourism, I love that picture there with the ruby red cheeks of the
It was
council.
a cold day.
Very festive. A lot of work in the cultural roundtable and the storytelling, supporting local talent in our concert series. All of those, again, are actions in our strategic plan that have been accomplished. Planning and development side, 18.5 million, not to steal Terry's thunder, but probably over that 20 million mark in the next report. 67.5 million last term, that's up 25% from the 4 years before that, but all told, you're be well over $100 million in the last 10 years in terms of development. Partnerships and source water protection, upping our urban design standards, and $40,000 a year, 1% more this year on facade and structural and other incentives to help out our urban areas. Agricultural environment, community gardens work, working with the county trees for Minto, Green Legacy, other accomplishments in those areas. The LED street lighting program, Trees for Minto, I believe, has a meeting coming up very shortly. 16th. Public Works area, 15 million in capital last term, 6.9 million this year, and 22 million in work identified for the next 4 years. So we also assumed full responsibility for our sewage treatment work, so now those plants are under your full control. So some other things have been accomplished in those areas, and in the interest fleet management and so forth, and the challenge will be to fund our equipment replacement in that area. Governance and leadership, we figure we're about 40% on completed actions. Again, there's a few more examples of partnerships for solar power, for redevelopment of lands, working with the Chamber of Commerce, the service clubs, other municipalities in the county. A lot of that encouraged in our plan and accomplished. So this is the last slide, emerging areas. I think we're on track with our mission and vision. Some things that kind of aren't specifically mentioned in the plan, but do kind of fall out of some of the actions in it. The electronic workflow that we see here, that kind of came out of innovation and streamlining and efficiencies. And I know in the clerk's department, certainly we've found not having to sit around a copier for 4 hours getting and delivering agendas has been very helpful. So while we have a few little rocky points on the technology, and we're still not fully operating.
The operators are a little bit off.
Yeah, so
the technology.
That was something that kind of came up, and it wasn't specifically mentioned in the plan, but is part of things that we do. The Municipal Service Corporation, again, under the taking over the Harrison Lions Clinic and making that, forming that corporation and running that. Again, we talked about supporting healthcare, innovative ways of doing work, but we didn't specifically mention that we were going to form a corporation and do that, but that ended up being the best way of doing it. And then support for the aging community. Obviously, we have, like everywhere else in North America, experiencing issues related to the aging of the community, and we talk a lot about providing facilities and services for people of all ages, but we certainly don't ever want to forget that we will be facing more and more challenges as our population ages. That's all I have to say for the presentation. If there's anyone who wants to come forward, Mayor Bridge, we certainly welcome any feedback or questions.
Any questions? Linda, did you have your hand up there?
No.
You shouldn't.
You were doing a great job.
I just want to say that was I watched the presentation earlier in the department heads meeting, but Bill, that was well done, and I think we can take this on the road. I think this one, and maybe get out to see some of the mayor's breakfasts or some of the service groups. Again, I think one of the hardest things we have as a council is communication. We try to communicate as much as we can. We have good media coverage and everything else, and we still get people say, "Oh, I didn't hear about that," or "Didn't know about that." So we can't over communicate. So I think having this strategic plan laid out like this and having it on our website, I take it, it'll be on our website, and we can refer people to it. People will see it tonight on our social media that we put out. So if you've got any questions, feel free to come up, or if you have a question later that you think about, feel free to contact myself or one of the councilors, and probably Bill would be the best one to get a hold of, and go through any things that we've talked about today. When we look at these partnerships that we've got out there and what we've done with partnerships, I keep saying it over and over again, when you're in a small community of 9,000 people without the volunteers, I see quite a few of them out here tonight that I see at all the different volunteer functions and work hard at different things. We cannot accomplish what we do, and I know the staff appreciates it as well. We have some great opportunities there. So I call on you to keep up the good work in the volunteerism, and we'll try to do our best at this council table. Any comments from the council want to make?
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. I think we have a couple of councillors in the audience tonight that were around in 2006 when the strategic plan was started.
That's a good point.
Yep. Past councillor Dave Anderson, weren't you here in 2006? And past councillor Wayne Martin, and I think Judy. So.
And I think you too.
Yep.
Yeah, maybe you were there too.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, and so the continuation of the whole thing, it's a good thing. So congratulations.
And that's a good point, David. You build something on a good foundation, and I believe we've had a good foundation going forward from other councils as well. Okay. Hearing no more, council appreciates any feedback received regarding the strategic plan. To your update, comments on strategic plan may be submitted at any time. Next formal review will be no less than 2 years before making significant changes to strategic plan. Notice will be given. So thank you, everybody that came for the strategic plan. I thought maybe you'd have one out there.
Not a one.
All right. Well, moving forward. The High Miller Plan subdivision. I got that one on here?
Yep.
Help me get me there.
Page 16.
I don't know the shortcuts yet. I'd have to go through 15 pages. When you get the scribe thing, it'll be better.
Yes.
Yeah, it goes on the side, then you can just pick them up.
All right. I do have it.
It's page 69.
69, there it is, we got her.
Page
Okay.
83.
No, I've got 69 on here.
I'm 69.
Don't fight over the page numbers. Mayor Bridge calls the meeting to order and declares this a joint public meeting to consider the planned subdivision for which Wellington County is approval authority and the zoning amendment for which the town of Minto is approval authority. I will request members of the public present to please sign the attendance record and state the following. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions or at a public meeting or make written submissions to the County of Wellington before the authority gives or refuses to give approval for the draft plan subdivision, or the town of Minto before the zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the County of Wellington regarding the draft plan subdivision or the town of Minto regarding the zoning bylaw amendment, the Ontario Municipal Board, and persons or public body may not be added to as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the board unless, in opinion of the board, there's reasonable grounds to do so. I'll turn it over to CEO Clerk White to state the following.
Thank you, Mayor Bridge. The property subject to the subdivision and proposed amendment to the zoning bylaw is described as lots 16 to 19, 22 to 24, John McComb's survey in the former town of Palmerston. And it's known as a number of numbers there, Clark Street and 1 and 3 Zulu Street. Interesting. The purpose of the draft plan of subdivision is to subdivide the property into 22 single-family detached residential lots, 8 semi-detached dwelling units, and 10 street townhouse units for a total of 40 residential units. Access to the subdivision is to be via Lawrence Street. No parkland is proposed. A stormwater management block of 0.29 hectares is also proposed at the eastern end of the site. The subject land is designated residential, policy area PA5-9 in the official plan. Purpose and effect of the zoning bylaw is to rezone the lands from agricultural to residential 1, residential 2, residential 3, and open space or natural environment for the stormwater management area. Holding symbols will be attached to residential zones to reflect municipal servicing. Notices were mailed to property owners within 400 feet or 120 meters of the subject lands and to applicable agencies, and a sign posted on the property August 26. The following comments were received from the County of Wellington Manager of Planning, Mark Van Patter, who is here tonight. Town of Minto Council recommending approval of the subdivision with conditions. That report is included in Council's package. From the public, Ken and Sharon Greenwood requesting notice of the decision. Stephen Heinmiller submitting concerns regarding the proposed Lawrence Street access. That letter was in your package. The Upper Grand District School Board with no objections, with certain conditions. Canada Post will be delivered to the Palmerston Post Office. Hydro 1 with no objections. Maitland Valley Conservation Authority commented the lands are not affected by the natural hazard or natural heritage features or regulated area. No review is required for the stormwater management plan as there are no direct outlet. Ontario Power Generation has no concerns.
I maybe call on Mark Van Patter, Manager of Planning, County Wellington.
Thank you, Your Worship. Members of Council, I thought maybe the best way to proceed tonight was have the applicant's planner. It's Genevieve Scott from Questa Planning. She's going to present the application and what they're doing, and then I thought I'd come in after and just fill in any gaps that were left over.
Fine.
Okay. Genevieve.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
I don't know if we have a tripod or if I can just use a chair.
Oh, okay.
Just bring this up so people
Yeah,
can
I'm
see
sorry,
it.
we could have had one maybe, but
I should have brought
we have it, do we have it up on the, as well? We have it up on the screen for you too. There you go.
It's up on the TV screen for you.
Perfect, thank you.
In color.
Good evening, Mayor Bridge, members of council, and the public. My name is Genevieve Scott, and I work at Questa Planning Consultants, and we have been retained by Mr. Barry Heinmeller and Ms. Ann Clark to assist them in the processing of the subject rezoning and draft plan of subdivision application. These applications are also associated with an official plan amendment which has been previously approved. With me here this evening are Ms. Clark and Mr. Heinmiller, who also may be able to address some questions for council. I just want to take a few minutes to go over the application and to provide some background to the application. So the location is Lot 23, Concession 1 in the former town of Palmerston. It's approximately 3.05 hectares, which is about 8 acres in size. The area is currently cropped and is located north of existing residential development, which fronts onto Main Street. The subject property currently contains some agricultural buildings which have been decommissioned. 2 of the buildings have been renovated for storage and workshop purposes, and it's the intent of the owner to demolish the remaining barn on the property as a condition of draft approval. I would also note that the county planner has recommended a prohibitive zoning to be placed on the remnant parcel at the same time as rezoning the lands associated with the draft plan, which would prohibit the housing of livestock on the remnant parcel. With respect to surrounding land use, as we can see on the screen, there's single detached residential to the south. Lands to the north and east are agricultural, and industrial lands are to the west. With respect to the draft plan, as outlined by Mr. White, the purpose and effect of the draft plan of subdivision is to subdivide the property into 22 single detached lots, 8 semi-detached dwelling units, and 10 street house townhome units for a total of 40 residential units. With respect to the design itself, the western side of the subdivision will contain single detached residential, with the intention of blending in with the single lot residential development, which is to the south of the property. Semi-detached will be located in the southeast portion of the development, with the higher density townhomes located in the northeast portion of the site. The stormwater management block.
Just before you, which is, just want to clarify, which is northeast on the colored map, for instance?
The purple.
The purple, thank you. I just wanted to verify that.
The stormwater management block is about 0.3 hectares, and it's also at the eastern end of the site. The proposed access to the subdivision is via Lorne Street, and all the units will front onto Street A, or what will be Clark Street. As part of the application, there was a geotechnical investigation that was completed and a functional servicing report by Triton Engineering. And a number of the recommendations from these reports will form the basis of a number of the conditions of draft approval as well. With respect to the functional servicing report, just a few things. The stormwater facility will be providing both quantity and quality control of site runoff prior to releasing into the existing drainage system. The bottom, it will be a dry pond. The bottom will be set above the high water table. The preliminary grading plan design directs flow as much as possible to the allocated block. And there has been a general grading plan which was included in the report, and additional designs of the service layout will form a condition of draft approval as well. In addition, a detailed sediment and erosion control design will form part of a condition. And just on a note with respect to reserve capacity, the servicing report does note that it's been confirmed that there is sufficient reserve capacity for both municipal water and sanitary services to accommodate the development. And with respect to the zoning, the proposed zoning will rezone the subject lands from A1 to R1, R2, and R3 and a natural environment for the stormwater management area. And there may be some holding provisions attached to the residential zones with respect to municipal servicing, possibly, in addition to the possibility of a noise assessment requirement on one of the lots. And as indicated previously, there will be a prohibitive zoning on the retained parcel. Just to provide a quick background, this is the second planning report we prepared in conjunction with this draft plan of subdivision. The original report was submitted in January of 2011, and it related primarily to the county official plan amendment. The original official plan amendment was to redesignate a portion of the subject property from agricultural to residential. And the original proposal was for 79 units and covered approximately twice the land area. The initial application moved forward to public meeting in the summer of 2011 and was approved in October by the county. The Ministry of Municipal Affairs appealed that decision to the OMB in November of 2011, and the appeal dealt mainly with discrepancies between the growth projections of the growth plan and those of the county and the town at the time. So there were minutes of settlement reached in 2012, which removed approximately half of the area that was redesignated. Within the OMB decision itself, with respect to the lands that were removed from the original official plan amendment, the remainder was held in abeyance and was to be dealt with as part of the approval of official plan amendment 81. Specifically, there was to be further discussions between the county and the province with respect to growth projections. It's my understanding that those the growth forecasts did not form part of OPA 81. There is an upcoming county official plan amendment to deal with the growth projections, and it may be appropriate at that time to revisit the development as originally proposed at that time. In regard to outstanding concerns, there was a concern with respect to MDS, which was identified during the original application for the OPA. And to address this, we'd suggested that the livestock operations be decommissioned as a condition of draft approval, and that the lands would be zoned to prohibit future livestock operations. With respect to servicing capacity, as indicated, when OPA 76 was first adopted, there was text within the official plan amendment which required the plan of subdivision to be phased in order to ensure sufficient water and sewer was there for the development, and with a holding provision used as part of the implementing zoning bylaw. At the time of the submission of the original report, the town had indicated that the town had an allocation bylaw which indicated that there were 88 units available for development lands in the urban area of Palmerston. Since that time, the town has upgraded the system with a new bylaw passed, which amended those capacity numbers from 88 to 186 units. Therefore, as the proposed subdivision has been reduced to 40 units and the municipal system capacity has increased, it would not appear that a holding provision would be necessary as part of the conditions of draft approval or through the implementing zoning bylaw. As well, the text of the official plan amendment required demonstration from the developer that the requirements of the Ministry of the Environment Guideline D6 had been addressed by the proposal prior to final approval of any residential development. In the original county staff report, staff outlined the possibility of the town rezoning the adjacent lands south of Noble Road to a light industrial zone to help reduce this potential land use incompatibility. And in April of 2012, the town did pass a bylaw which rezoned the lands adjacent to the property to a light industrial zone. Additionally, Section 6.3 of the town's zoning bylaw also provides further buffering requirements, which must be implemented on commercial and industrial lands when they abut residential uses. Also, the proposed draft plan includes a 3-meter-high planted berm on Lot 10, which is directly adjacent to the industrial lands. So through pre-submission consultation with county staff, it was confirmed that a full noise study may not be necessary at this stage. However, it might be appropriate to place a holding provision on that lot, which could be lifted prior to issuance of a building permit. Just a couple of comments on the agency and neighbor comments. The town of Minto had requested confirmation of the title of Ontario and Lorne Streets, and I did confirm that the portion of Ontario Street which forms part of the draft plan is jointly owned by Anne and Barry. The portion of Lorne Street, which is being recommended to be included in the draft plan, is owned by Mr. Stephen Heinmiller and There will be further discussions among the signatories to address the concerns that have been identified with Stephen with respect to the use of this land. I also received an email later last evening from Brian Knox on behalf of his daughter Jessica Luton, who wanted to know if there would be a second access proposed on Ontario Street, and if any upgrades to Main Street were being contemplated by the town as part of this application process.
Main Street's County
on Main Street.
Yeah, Main Street.
Oh, Main Street?
I thought she might have asked about Mary Street or...
No. As well, the county department had commented that normally the county does like to see a second access for emergency purposes, and I believe that Mr. Van Patter is waiting to receive some comments from the fire department and the public works director in that regard. So it would appear that some further discussions with respect to access and possibly emergency access is really the only outstanding issue. And that's everything. So thank you very much. And if there's any questions, I will be happy to address them.
Thank you through you, Mayor Bridge. The two areas that, just from your comments, you said once a certain study was confirmed by the county that there might be a request to go back to the original land request?
I think, well, I don't know if there would be, at this point in time, where we'd be going with this draft plan, but we would look at...
That could be a stage 2, is what you're saying?
Essentially.
Okay.
Essentially, because what happened was that part, there was minutes of settlement, they agreed to stick with the area that had the original McCombs plan of subdivision.
Correct.
The rest was held in abeyance, and nothing really happened.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Thank you. That answered my question. The second part of my question was the... Barry, I forget the name of the street into your property.
Lawrence.
Lawrence Street. Now, is there sufficient, I guess, ownership of the town of lands to make that a legal street?
No.
If I may answer it, that we believe we own Ontario Street, which would be, if you're looking at the diagram on the screen, is somewhere around lot 5 and 4, and I think it's 66 feet wide. The other one where the road is shown on that diagram, that is actually the lands owned by the other Mr. Heinmiller, Stephen.
Yep.
And so we would be seeking to get a minimum 66-foot dedication of allowance there, or some other
So that's not Lawrence Street?
That would be Lawrence Street.
That's Lawrence Street.
But it's not there. We don't own that. That's privately owned. So
Correct.
As a condition of the subdivision, we'd have to own that.
Yes, thank you. That was the reason I brought that point up.
Currently, there's a registered right-of-way on it, but it is owned by Mr. Stephen Heinmiller.
Correct.
Ron, you had a question?
Yes, just remind me, how's all the water going to run off and where the drainage is going to be?
It's going to be, the grading plan is bringing everything toward the stormwater management facility, which is on the eastern, sort of the northeastern. So the grading is going to be...
The green area?
The green area.
Yes, the green
And you
area.
expect that it would go to there?
That's my understanding, yes. They're going to have, I'll just check my comments here. Minor, all of the minor events will be accommodated just by that flow, and then the rest would be overland, and there will be some backyard swales, I believe.
So it'll be a dry area where it go into it?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
gradually seep away? Okay, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions from council at this moment? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mark, did you want to sum up?
Sure.
I don't have a lot to add.
Yeah.
I'd love somebody like you to go on.
I know, yeah, like you get paid to come up.
I know. I should be giving you guys money back.
Yeah.
Here tonight.
Okay.
Although I had to listen to the first thing tonight, the chickens.
Imagine Gary had
I
something.
was just happy that they weren't all here for my meeting when I drove into the parking lot.
High drama here in Minto town. town of Minto tonight. I thought Genevieve covered almost everything very well. I thought I'd just kind of go over my considerations, one sentence or so each. There is a need, there's an undersupply of residential units in Palmerston, so I think this is good. We're fine with the residential density because the property's got an unusual history. They have lots here that have been there since the 1800s. Plus, it's already got a sewer running down the middle of the farm field. So it's an unusual property, and we're fine with the density being proposed at 5.3 units per acre. It's kind of an unusual situation. As Genevieve mentioned, there's 2 engineering reports that have been done, and so, of course, the town will be having its engineer and public works looking at it. And so a lot of that stuff will be taken care of in the subdivision agreement later, once we get beyond draft approval. And just so council understands, when we do a plan of subdivision, when we give it approval, a lot of the stuff is still preliminary. There's a whole list of conditions, 19 or 20 conditions that have to be met, like, the zoning has to be done in it, and the streets have to be given over, parkland dedication has to be given, and so forth. And once all those conditions are met, then, we give final approval to it. So part of that is the servicing capacity. That'll just be a condition on the draft approval that there has to be. The town will have to send the county a letter saying there's enough water and sewer capacity. So, that stuff can all happen in the future. The Lawrence Street situation has to be sorted out in terms of getting access to the property. And the secondary access, I just want to, we're close to only needing one. Normally, when we had about 30 lots, we like to see 2. I think if we get comments from the fire department and from Brian, then we can get some indication of that. Maybe Linda Dixon as well. I haven't talked to Linda, but we'll sort that out. We do know that if we do see the second phase, there's a good chance that Mary Street or Noble Street will be opened up, so we won't need the second access then. So in my mind, if we do need one, there's some potential to have kind of a temporary one. You see that sometimes where it's left there just in case you need it, but it's never intended to become a street. But I think we can cross that road later. Cash in lieu of parklands being proposed. There's no little archaeological potential on the property. It's no features nearby. Wellhead protection, we're good from the source water people on that. Nothing really required. And as Genevieve mentioned, there's some noise attenuation things that have taken place. A couple years ago, the town approved a rezoning, which is in your package, showing basically putting a buffer in between the industrial area, putting that into light industrial. So I think that'll help. And then the berm that's being proposed in the one lot will help. And then we may put, a holding on that one lot until a noise study is done, just to make sure they're okay for that. So I think it's a good subdivision. I think there's just a few little hitches that have to be sorted out before we can move forward. And so I think once we get to that point, then we can look at draft approval.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thanks. Any questions for Mark? Having heard none, I guess I will call on anybody wishing to speak in favor of the application. Over to... You're all good over there? Okay. Anybody wishing to comment in opposition to the proposal draft plan of subdivision proposed bylaw? Anybody in the audience want to speak opposed to it? Right up to the mic, and you have to vacate a little bit there, one of you. And
you're on.
Stay close in case there's questions I can't answer. Thank you.
Hi.
State your name and...
Hi, I'm Steve Heimler from 15 Lawrence Street. In regards to this subdivision, as you can see, I have part of a lot where the lane goes through. So what I was wondering was that why was it years ago the town set up 3 lots and had the lane go through the one, which basically is no good for, for anybody if they wanted to build something there. And why, at the time, why did the town not take in consideration for the lane and then start a lot to the right of the lane and then had the lots come up to the lane on the left-hand side? So what I was wondering is that at the time when I bought the place, I was told that the lot was a certain size with some frontage on it, and that was to the right of the lane. So as I found out, I actually have 3 lots, and the third lot is, like I said earlier, with the lane going through it. Well, I was wondering whether things are being changed for a subdivision, whether if it was possible that I could have a lot behind my house where my back of my property bumps up to, and have it the 198 by 132 lot size, and then you can have to the right of the street develop a lot, or a lot from the lane and carry across to the right. So that's because at this point I'm really, because I know when the street gets developed it's going to be made wider and probably a sidewalk or something, I would imagine. And to me, I'm going to lose property, and I'm paying taxes, and that's land I paid for. So I was wondering if that was possible, and if not, I would prefer the street to be taken out and backfilled and then seeded down so that I could make use of my full lot. But I would prefer the lot behind me and allow the street to go through, as long as I have the one, like I said, my 198 from the street towards my house and then behind my house. Because I took the wheel to measure land, and I see that my 198 by 132 is from the back of my property across the street to the field, and then from where my property line is next the house that's next to Main Street, from there to where I have a row of trees is 132. So at this point I'm really not in favor of it, but I'd be interested to see what you have to say or what can be done.
All right, did you speak to that in your comments?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit?
There is, when Mr. Heinmiller had written in and.
Yep, and we had your
provided a
letter, by the way,
comment,
Stephen, so we know what you just said.
I had a chance to speak to Ann and Barry with respect to this issue, and we'd like to attempt to address this concern.
That's what I thought. I thought you had
Yes,
talked
yes.
about possibly, so maybe if you would sit down and if you guys can work out something that, I mean, at this point, is that right, Bill? We work on that basis?
Okay.
Would that be fair?
Yeah.
And we know your concerns and you've voiced them.
Okay.
So hopefully we can come up with some kind of
All right.
solution. Okay?
Okay, thank you
Stephen.
for your time.
Any other questions?
This guy lives here.
Okay. I will state that if anyone wishes to be notified of the decision of the County of Wellington in respect to the proposed draft plan of subdivision application, you must make a written request to the Director of Planning and Development Department, County of Wellington, 74 Woolwich Street, Guelph, Ontario, N1H 3T9 519-837-2600, extension 2080. And if you wish to notify the decision of the Council of the Town of Minto in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw application, you must make a written request to the clerk of the Town of Minto at 5941 Highway 89, Harrison, NOG 1ZO, or by email, or Bill White at townofminto.on.ca. No further comments. I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you.
Get her done.
And,
That was a fun part.
yeah. So, does everybody want to take a little stretch for a minute? And I want to get something, I don't think it's out here.
That's her.
Is it here? Have you got it out there? Good. Okay, good. Because I brought it out the other day and I thought that was good to have. I couldn't see it. Okay, then we will, Dave, did you want to take over this? Introduce your people, and it's a great opportunity to have some history here.
Well, apparently not all of them are here. Apparently not.
You missed a golden opportunity there. Yeah.
Pass the water down there. Pass the water down, will you?
Yes.
You're hogging it again. Bill needs it.
Just give me that back.
Our Phoenix is empty.
Very
Are we
good.
ready?
Yes, cool. Go, David.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Bridge. It was a couple of months ago, we were having some construction work down at the plant that I work at, and my friend Terry Hewitson was there, and he asked me if I was still a counselor in the town of Minto because he had some property that he had acquired from, he was one of the construction folks that was taking the building down in Palmerston, the old town hall, the old fire hall. And I did say that I was, and he said, well, he had a little package that he had picked up there. And he did tell me that that's quite normal when when his company or any other company do tear down buildings, it's kind of the property of his, the person that's tearing it down. And you can clarify that, Terry, if you want, but I would like to introduce Terry Hewitson. He's the gentleman that has the time capsule, and he just happens to have it out in the lobby. And so what I would like to do is ask him to bring it in, and everybody could have a look at it, maybe get a picture or so, and possibly we might want to take it out in the hall or out on the sidewalk to bust it.
Oh, to bust it? Oh, my God.
You didn't break it?
Sledgehammers.
So we also have here tonight
Oh, good
the
lord.
plaque that was on the same building.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
Well, that thing's huge.
That's bigger than I thought it was.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, it's a stone.
There you go, look at that.
Chad's got a
got a
picture
drill.
of the actual stone that
Cool.
was placed in the wall.
That's actually during the Masonic ceremony, during the cornerstone line.
So it
Sorry.
says, placing the cornerstone
I'm
of
gonna
the
take a
Commerce
picture.
Municipal Complex, April 25th, 1975.
Say Masonic,
Where's your hard hat?
Chad?
It was a full Masonic.
Really?
service done, yeah.
Really?
I can believe it. I was looking at the list
Yeah.
of people there. A lot of Masons.
You got
Those
one?
that want to know, our mayor, that year was George Wright. Our reeve was Kenneth Elliott. Deputy reeve was
Who?
Mrs. Logan.
That you?
Councilors were Mr. Burns, Mr. Bridge, Mr. Cronsberry, Mr. Langdon, and Mr. Urban. Clerk treasurer was Ross Saunders. Foreman of the Public Works was Elroy Stevenson. Fire chief was Jack Schoner. And the chief was Forrest Inns. So, saying all that, what are we gonna do? Terry has brought the tools to bust this thing.
We better not do that in here.
Have you experienced this before?
No. First time for
So
everything.
I would like to introduce Terry Hewitson. And Terry, thank you for coming, and we appreciate you bringing this and turning it back to the town.
No problem.
And I did ask Terry to wear a tie, but he chose not to.
Well, he's going to be using equipment. You can't have a tie on with equipment.
Good point.
The press would like some pictures.
Thank you.
So what do you think? What do we want to do? Do you want pictures?
Yeah, maybe.
Well, this actually opens up, too,
Okay.
like, so that comes off, and there's actually a kind of a tin-like box inside it that's all soldered shut. So that's what it is that actually has to be open.
So it hasn't been opened then?
I'm gonna go up here and watch.
Do we want to set it up on the table?
Sure, if it's not gonna wreck things to do
Well, we
that.
can set it on something. We'll be start.
Or on a chair?
Looks all.
Good time to take a washroom break. Good time to take a washroom break.
You're not allowed to be absent.
What fun.
Heavy is it?
Oh, here it is.
Put their safety glasses on.
Wow.
These are like $2. Fuck, won't last long. It won't work. Behind it there. Safety shield.
Do you want to get everybody in a shot? Or like, should get a little council? You might allow everybody crowd around the thing. And Terry, you.
Come on and crowd, Bill.
Before it blows up.
Counselor's crowd,
Get in there.
don't move for me.
I don't think any of those people are not listening. Right? I don't think any of the people are not listening.
Here's a good idea.
He doesn't know to go there. Come late, that's what happens, right?
I can read it later. That's okay. There we go.
That Mr. Bridge was my grandfather.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. RG, George Brady.
A little closer, Ron. Yeah, you.
I meant make me young, wouldn't it?
Let Judy in.
Okay, Ron, can you move closer to, there we go. And come forward, okay.
Yeah, I don't have to be close enough.
Okay, works. Okay, everybody say time capsule.
Time capsule.
Say it again, slowly.
Again, so
Google, open the time capsule.
Where everybody just look right here and. Okay, Terry, let's do it.
Stand back. Oh, look at this open all over there.
Yeah, gotta lay it back. There's even some little, to me, like some signatures on it there too. This slide, I think it is copper actually, and there was a lot of trim around the building that was actually copper too. Actually, there's a signature on top of it. I don't know if anyone can make it out. I recognize the name.
There's one there.
What are we gonna plug in here?
This is different.
This is different.
Ombudsman
You never
do
know
this.
what you're gonna do to council.
I don't know.
As long as the ombudsman's not watching.
Could also be the
Yes. Gonna reapply.
No, I don't think so. I was gonna say. No, no.
So let's try and see if you watch.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna try and cut it a little bit so
Prior open.
You know what?
Safety first. Yes. We don't want a WSIB claim from welding in the council chambers.
I can just hear it now. Copper, inhale, a little bit of asbestos in there, a little bit of arsenic, keep the top pure.
There might be some cash in there. I got some land for drain.
Yeah, it was cut.
Somehow that got through all the audits over the years.
We need a motion to open the time capsule.
Is your camera on or off? It's on.
This is history.
I wasn't shutting it off for this.
Inside is another smaller time
I
capsule.
was still in high school then.
I was 10.
You were 10. Rub it in. Rub it in. 16 or whatever.
You may not have had a total audit like that.
Oh, maybe I was older than that. I had my first child 3 years later, so. You need a pry bar. You need my little tool for cast removing those little.
You want to save that box?
You want me to just continue that?
You're gonna have to. You're the mayor.
All your responsibility.
Up and it'll be empty.
Hopefully there's no poly.
Oh, wow.
If there's any polyester, it'll light on fire.
Careful. How do we get an archive? Chad, Chad, you can handle this. Don't bring it in.
This is it.
Everything's in pretty good shape.
There's the Grand Lodge. Officers.
Must have been.
Yeah.
Keep going there.
Oh, the money.
You were right. Yeah, I think. Yeah, that wasn't Ross. Ross didn't leave as much money, did he?
Darrow Sittler, rookie.
Oh, Eastern Star in here too.
Fire department? Brand Hill Service Center?
Chief Harrell.
Ladies?
Ladies Orange Lodge Benevolence Association. There's a scroll, which you'll be very careful with. Another list. It looks like what they've done is they've taken a lot of the organizations and put their lists of their people in. Would that be normal, Chad, one of these? Okay.
There's likely something from all the schools.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, well, that's not too bad.
No, it's not too bad. Centennial?
We're looking for a picture of Watts Mill if you have to run in.
Was there, nobody has a picture of it?
Not so far,
Jamie didn't?
Not standalone, that's where I'm at right now.
Thankfully, there's no 70s clothes in there.
I know bell bottoms, no tie dye.
Yeah.
Fall Fair, 97.
No 70s haircuts.
No.
Oh, there's the newspaper. You were hoping for a newspaper.
Art car would have to have a finger in there.
Yeah.
75 one might be that.
Checks to see who visited who and had supper with them.
Wendy Logan.
I always love those when so-and-so dropped by and had supper with Mrs. Bridge. Word turned out at the annual meeting.
I had this thing charged 100% last night.
This is
9%.
April 24th.
5%. Yeah, nothing. Well, I haven't got my glasses.
And on there, Mayor crowned first queen of the fair. And we've got
75.
75. Centennial Committee
Just
met
go to
in the
that book,
boardroom,
right?
in the new town hall.
There's something wrong with this picture.
Yeah, open in here.
They started calling each other.
But then when I wasn't near.
Yep.
When I wasn't near into
So I think what's
I had
happened
them all
is,
listed at the top and I went and.
I think there was a request for this.
I want to
maybe going
download
to
it,
the
see
local
it on the
library for
computer.
now and then display. I'll work on that. I don't think there should be any problem with that. I never.
In a non.
Clarify, but I'm sure Barbara has no problem.
Would
Here's
you
the
like?
area for the display in there. So if we get it out in the paper, that it'll be there for people to look at. It's going to go into the library.
Which library?
The Palmerston Library.
So it's probably
No,
should-
well, we're the temporary library. I don't think I want to break the other. You can't get into that one right now unless you have a hard hat.
I think you've done a good job.
Now, it's good before the meeting's done. Oh, no, I do not.
Like I thank everybody.
Well, I don't know.
Can everything go?
But I got it.
Yeah, I think we should.
It's open.
Yeah. Ivan was stays for the wedding. Got 2 weeks. Don't all go yet. Be good.
Making Laurie drive this time.
Take her long?
Yeah.
Ryan sent it?
Yeah. I will find it and I'll tell you. I'm betting it is Cease. It is set. Brooksy. Yep.
Right, and I don't know how to turn off.
Yeah, that's why he was at the fire department.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, because all those things were open all night. Probably, I was reading it
You
last
should
night.
set it for like
But I
15
don't know
minutes
how.
or something.
Like,
Walk
just
just a
long?
second. I'll figure out. I'll have to find it again.
Give us some in-service.